again, we are here in our development shop in Los Angeles. Something we've been asked about thousands and thousands of times over the years, so it's high time we tackle this request. What we're going to go over is the basic connections for all of our subwoofer systems. How we make them at the amplifier. We're going to go into individual model tuning guides. But to get things started, we're going to talk about the wires that come with your amplifier kits and how we make the connections to the amplifier itself. So this is our new little amplifier. It's included in all of our subwoofer systems, be they the deck mounted or the floor mounted or wherever we decide to put them. It's very, very simple. What you're going to need a pair of wire cutters. I've got a couple different kinds here because that's just the way I work. I like to use a straight razor blade or any kind of cutting knife will work just fine. Obviously be super careful with this. So kind of the way I start, I always do it first, is by making my power connection. So we have plus 12 volts, which is our large gauge red wire. We have turn on, which is our small gauge blue wire. We have ground, which is our large gauge black-ish wire. And so the way we connect those is we're just going to grab a Phillips head screwdriver and just loosen them up a little bit. And I like to use, I can strip wires with these, but I think you guys will have a little bit better luck using a blade here. And so kind of the way I do it, I'm going to give it about, I don't know, a little over 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch. And just kind of roll the blade over the shielding, pull it off like so. That way you can see we just cut a little bit off. We don't want to leave too much because it only needs to go in, about that far, like so, which is perfect. And we'll do these I like to get these connections in the amplifier before I even take it in the car. It's just easier to go to the car with the connections all there, and then you figure out the positioning of your amplifier from there. So we've got our ground wire connected. Let's move on to our remote turn-on lead. And again, this is one of those wires that you don't need to use a razor blade for. It's so small. You can get a set of wire strippers. I just use my little dikes here. So again, this is how I make this connection though. I actually cut it a little long because since the wire is such a small gauge wire, I want to make sure we get a super solid connection. So what I do is I twist it and then I fold it over on itself to give a little bit more of a bite inside the amplifier. Let's see, so that way this screw's got more to hold on to than just a little bit of 20 gauge, 22 gauge, depending on what it is. So now with our remote wire connected, finally we move to our battery wire, at least in regards to our power connections. And again, straight razor, we use really nice wiring, so you should have no problems getting through it. The blade, bring it off, a little twist. And again, be kind of careful, these little wire strands, one just fell off there. They seem to have a knack for finding their way into your fingers or under your fingernails, which is worse. Again, I cut it a little long. Make our connection like so. And we're done with the power connections anyway. So let's get this kind of out of the way. What I like to do usually is take a wire tie, maybe get these 3 wires right here. I should have brought one over here, but I'll take a wire tie these together just to keep them clean. I want to keep a little section of wire, maybe a foot off of the amplifier, nice and tight and clean, because after this, the wires are going to tuck behind your panels. So with those connections made, let's move around to our speaker connections. And this is very tricky. A lot of people call in and ask us how we do this. In our systems, we always bridge the amplifier, meaning we take the 2 channels of output, combine their power to go to one subwoofer. As you can see, the bridged connections use the left positive and the right negative. So that being said, we want to make sure these 2 in the middle, which we won't be using, are nice and snug. And then for our outside connections, just like before, we're going to loosen the screws a little bit. And now with our speaker wire, you can see, and this is usually the speaker wire we use. I mean, from time to time it varies, but you can make the distinction regardless of the wires we send you. One wire is marked positive, one wire is marked negative. And again, this is not critical as long as you keep the positive and negative on the wire the same between the amplifier and the subwoofer terminal. So we strip the wire back a little bit. And again, This wire is a little bit thicker, so we don't need to double up on it like I did with the other wire. So I just strip my wires back a little bit. I always strip a little too much. Twist them, like before. And now you'll see the positive and the negative. The wires are clearly marked, and you'll note that in your kit. So we want to use left positive and right negative. So we'll take our positive to our positive and our negative to our negative. Last but not least, we've got our RCA cables, and we're going to go over this in another video, how to make those connections. But the RCA cables, yours may look like this, they may be red, they could be any number of things. With subwoofer systems, left and right is irrelevant, so just be conscious of that. So we'll have that plugged, like so. Boy, these are some super tight RCAs. All right, so that's how our RCA connections are made. Let's get those out of the way. And now that I think about it, you can see, let's actually unplug these RCA cables so I can show you guys this, because this is highly relevant to what we're doing. And on the side of the amplifier here, you can see there's a little button here that can be depressed or otherwise. We are always going to be using the RCA inputs, so we want to make sure that this plug, that's speaker level in, which we do not use. When it's out, it's RCA in, which we do use. So if you connect everything, there's no sound, double check to make sure this switch is not depressed. We want it to be sticking out, not in. So confirm that. Go ahead and now plug our RCA cables back in. And I'll kind of show you loosely how I usually, depending on where you mount your amplifier. If you mount there's a couple ways. I like to just keep all of my wires really clean. So if I mounted this amplifier, let's just say over behind something, behind a panel in my 5 series or my X5, I take all my wires and kind of just make them, you know, a nice little batch like this, and then I would route them to their respective areas. Make it pretty. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to pause here, because that largely covers our basic connections to our amplifier. So here we're going to stop, we're going to come back, and we're going to go over each individual model tuning guide.